My daughter had promised 40 children's desks from my workshop without asking me. I learned about it from a flyer on my phone at my workbench. The flyer thanked my son-in-law's company. The desk in its photograph was mine. Under the flyer, a woman named Nina had written, "Mr. Ward, does Monday at 8 still work for the lumber delivery?" Who had told her I agreed? I set the hinge down, wiped my hand on my apron, and typed, "Please stop the delivery. I never agreed to this." I unplugged the table saw, though it was not running. It was an old habit from years of closing a shop properly when my thoughts were somewhere else. Then I called my daughter. Mara answered on the fourth ring. A turn signal clicked behind her. "Dad, I'm driving." "Then pull over." She went quiet. I did not raise my voice often. What happened? A woman from Harbor House just asked when she can deliver lumber for 40 desks. The turn signal kept clicking. "Oh," Mara said. That one word told me the flyer was not a mistake. "Did you tell them I would build 40 desks?" Grant handled the announcement. "It's for families moving out of temporary housing. You always say children need a proper place to do schoolwork." That was not my question. He said he talked to you. When? I don't know. Last week, maybe. Last week he asked whether my garage wiring could handle a busy weekend. I told him it had handled 30 years of my work because I did not treat it like a carnival ride. Mara exhaled hard. "Dad, please. The announcement is already out. Who gave him the picture of your old desk?" This time the turn signal stopped. "I did," she said. "He asked for it." "Did you ask why?" "He said he was putting together a community proposal." "I thought you'd be proud." "Proud of what?" "Of helping." "I have not helped yet. I have been volunteered." She tried another path. 40 sounds like a lot, but Grant has people. Who? His crew. Family. We can all pitch in. No one is walking into my shop to learn a table saw against a 2-week deadline. Nobody said 2 weeks. The flyer says delivery before the first day of school. Silence again. "Okay, so you have no idea why you're in this cell." Longer this time. That was the first answer I got that morning. Mara had sent Grant the photograph. Grant had made the promise. Neither one of them had asked me, and both of them had found reasons not to notice. Then she gave me the second question. "Grant is coming over," she said. "Once you see the plan, you'll understand." I was 67 that summer, retired for 3 years from a cabinet shop on the south side of Bellwether, Ohio. I had spent most of my life making things fit spaces that were never as square as the drawings claimed. A wall can lean. A floor can rise half an inch between one end of a room and the other. Good work begins when you stop arguing with what is there. The truth standing in front of me that Friday morning was simple. My daughter and her husband had offered my hands, my tools, and the next 2 weeks of my life to strangers. They had put Grant's company name over the offer. Now they expected the good cause to make my answer for me. I went into the kitchen and looked at the flyer again. The desk in the photograph was the one I had built for Mara when she was 11. June and I had not had money for the white bedroom set Mara wanted from a catalog, so I made a plain maple desk with 2 drawers and a shelf along the back. Mara had done her homework there until she left for college. Years later, after June died, I refinished it for Mara's first apartment. I did not mind that Grant had photographed my work. I minded that he had turned a father's gift into a sample from his own company. That distinction might sound small to someone who has never made a living with his hands. It was not small to me. Grant's company, Mercer Home Renewal, had been struggling since spring. I knew that much. He did kitchen updates, porch repairs, and rental turnovers, and he was good at speaking in finished pictures. He could stand in a damaged room and make a customer see new cabinets, clean tile, and morning light. What he was less good at was the middle, the measured part, where somebody had to price the materials, schedule the workers, and admit what could not be finished by Friday. I had helped him through that middle more times than I should have. The first time, I rebuilt 2 cabinet doors after his supplier sent the wrong size. The second time, I spent a weekend correcting a stair rail his helper had cut short. Then there were the smaller things. Lending clamps, sharpening blades, checking a drawing, taking a call that began with, "Eli, quick question." I never sent an invoice. Grant never offered one. Mara usually thanked me. She would bring coffee or send a picture of the finished room. After a while, my help stopped being an event. It became part of how their plans worked. There had been warning signs. The previous winter, Grant had borrowed my portable planer for one afternoon and returned it 9 days later with a damaged cord. When I asked why he had not called, Mara said his job had gone sideways and he had been embarrassed. I repaired the cord myself. In April, Mara invited me to breakfast and arrived with measurements for a built-in bench a customer wanted. She ordered eggs before sliding the paper across the table. I gave her 2 hours at my bench that afternoon. We never spoke about the fact that breakfast had been a work meeting I had not agreed to attend. Each incident was small enough to forgive. That was how the pattern survived. There was no single day when my daughter announced that my retirement belonged to her marriage. There were only favors, one after another, each wearing the face of the last favor I had gladly done. I had helped because I loved her. I had also helped because, after June died, being needed filled rooms that had become too quiet. That part was mine to admit. Grant had learned that I would answer a practical problem faster than I would answer my own loneliness, and Mara had learned it too. That did not excuse what they had done. It explained why they expected it to work. June had noticed that pattern before I did. Once, after I canceled dinner because Grant needed a counter trimmed, she said, "Dependable people have to be careful. Everybody loves the bridge until the bridge asks where they're going." June could say a thing like that without turning it into a sermon. I missed that about her. I also knew better than to use her memory as a weapon against Mara. So I took a sheet from the kitchen drawer and drew a line down the middle. On the left I wrote, "What the children need." On the right, what Grant advertised. I knew nothing yet about the first column. In the second, I wrote 40 desks, 2 weeks, my design, my shop, his name. Then I called Nina. Harbor House Network occupied 3 rooms above a credit union in downtown Bellwether. Nina Alvarez met me beside a copy machine with one paper tray hanging open. She was younger than Mara, perhaps 35, with a pencil through her hair and the tired attention of somebody trying to solve 4 problems at once. "Mr. Ward, I am so sorry," she said. "Eli is fine." She led me to a small office. On the wall was a map with 12 blue dots. "I stopped the delivery," she said. "Nothing has been purchased." That mattered. It meant the mistake had become public, but it had not yet become lumber somebody would use to shame me. "Tell me what you were promised." Nina opened a folder, then seemed to think better of it and closed it again. "Grant contacted us after our summer appeal. We are helping 12 families move into long-term apartments before school begins. Several parents told us their children were doing homework on beds or floors. I said we were looking at compact study surfaces. 12? 12 households. Some have more than one child. Grant suggested 40 desks, so every child could have one. He said his company would lead the build and that you had designed the prototype. Did he say I worked for him? He called it a family partnership. I almost laughed, but Nina looked embarrassed enough already. Did he give you a schedule? 2 volunteer weekends, then delivery. A crew? He said he had family and tradespeople ready. Names? She shook her head. Has anyone promised those families a desk by a certain day? No. We were going to confirm addresses after the build plan was signed. That was the best news I had heard all morning. Then nobody has lost a desk, I said. They have lost a flyer. Nina sat back. She told me Harbor House had spent 6 years learning not to make families pose beside every donated object. Some parents wanted privacy. Some children had already been photographed enough during the hardest months of their lives. Grant wanted a delivery event, she said. Matching shirts. A banner. He said the children could sit at the desks for the pictures, before the desks went into their homes. That was his suggestion. I added photographs to the right-hand column in my mind. The cause was real. So was the need. But Grant had wrapped both in an event designed to make his company visible, while the person expected to build the furniture remained unnamed and unasked. No children in a sales picture, I said. Agreed. That small exchange changed my view of Nina. She had accepted Grant's promise too quickly, but she was willing to stop when the facts changed. She did not defend a flyer because she had helped publish it. Nina looked at me carefully. Are you saying no to the project? I am saying no to 40 desks in 2 weeks. I am saying no to my garage as a volunteer training floor. And I am saying no to Grant's company name on work Grant's company cannot produce. She nodded after each sentence. But I would like to understand the actual need. The relief on her face made me uncomfortable. It would have been easy, right then, to enjoy being the reasonable man after Grant had behaved badly. That kind of enjoyment can be its own trap. Nina did not need a hero. She needed somebody to tell her what was possible. She explained that the apartments were small. A full desk might not even fit in several bedrooms. What the families had asked for was a reliable surface, a place to set a school tablet, a notebook, and a lamp without taking over the kitchen. There's a community workshop on Lenox Street, Nina said. We partner with them for repair days. They have staff and volunteer hours. Who runs it? Samir Bell. I knew Samir by reputation. He had taught shop at the technical high school before opening the community space. More important, he was known for saying no before an unsafe yes. Let me talk to him, I said. Grant will be upset. Grant is already upset. That does not tell us what to build. Before I left, Nina stopped beside the map. For what it is worth, she said, I need an honest 12 more than a photographed 40. That was the first useful plan anyone had spoken that day. The community workshop smelled like cut pine and floor wax. It occupied an old bus maintenance building with high windows, wide aisles, and a staff member at the front desk. Samir met us near a wall of locked storage cabinets. He was a broad man with silver hair and a habit of looking at a drawing from the side, as if it might confess something from that angle. Nina told him what had happened without turning it into gossip. I appreciated her for that. Samir looked at the photograph of Mara's desk. 40 of these? He asked. Not from me, I said. Not from anybody in 14 days. We walked through the space. Samir showed me the assembly tables and the area where supervised volunteers handled simple tasks. We did not discuss turning beginners loose on machinery, because sensible men do not spend much time debating whether a bad idea can be arranged politely. I drew a shallow shelf that could sit along a wall beneath a window, wide enough for a notebook and a school tablet. A small raised edge at the back. 2 supports. No drawers, no heavy pedestal, no need to move a child's bed. 12, I said. 4 Saturdays. Samir studied the sketch. If my staff controls the floor and assigns the tasks, that is why we are standing here instead of in my garage. Nina asked what it would cost. Samir said he would work up materials with her. I told her I would help refine the design and lead the first assembly, but I would not donate a number of hours, promise a tax value, or turn the project into a contest over whose gift was largest. And Mercer home renewal? Nina asked. Has no place in this version. She put her pencil behind her ear. I can take this to our director, she said. But the first announcement has to be corrected before we make another one. I knew then that the smaller project was possible. I also knew Mara would have to choose whether it was more important to protect Grant's story or tell the truth that made the work possible. She came to my house alone that evening. I was sitting on the porch with the sheet divided into 2 columns. I had added 12 study shelves beneath what the children need. Under what Grant advertised, I had added photographs. Mara saw the paper and frowned. You made a list. I needed to keep 2 things from being confused. She sat in the other chair but left her purse over her shoulder. Grant told me you went to Harbor House behind his back. Mina came to me before any of you did. You know what I mean. I do. I just do not agree. She looked tired. Mara had June's eyes and my habit of pressing her thumb against the edge of a fingernail when she was worried. The business is in trouble, she said. How much trouble? We lost the Greer renovation, and the apartment company pushed its turnover work until fall. Does Grant have enough to make payroll? For now. Then this is about finding work? It is about people seeing what the company can do. The company cannot make 40 desks. It can if we help. There was the word again. We. Who is we? Grant. Me. You. A couple of his guys. Cousins, if we need them. His guys are already working paid jobs. Have they agreed to spend 2 weekends here? I don't know. Have the cousins? Dad? Families do things for one another. They ask one another. She stood and walked to the porch rail. Fine. Then I am asking. Nina says there are only 12 families. Build the 12 desks. We will all help. Grant's company can still sponsor it. Nina and I looked at the apartments. We have a safer, simpler plan for 12 study shelves at the community workshop. Mara turned. You already made another plan? I found out what was needed. Without us. The people who need the shelves are not part of Grant's company. You are taking this away from him. It was never his. She flinched, and for a moment I wished I had chosen softer words. Then she said, leave his logo on it. That is all I am asking. You can build the shelves. He can bring volunteers and handle the publicity. I looked at my daughter. Not at Grant's wife. Not at the woman defending a business. At the child who had once done math at the desk in that photograph while June peeled apples beside her. Whose hands did you expect to make what Grant promised? I said we would help. Whose hands, Mara? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. That silence hurt more than the flyer. The flyer could have been Grant's ambition running ahead of him. Mara's silence meant she had known exactly where the work would land. You left my name off because Grant said I do not like attention, I said. You don't. That is different from not wanting consent. He thought once you saw who it was for, so did you. She looked away. I did not ask her to apologize. An apology on my porch would have cost her nothing, while the flyer still carried Grant's name. Nina will not approve the smaller project until the first promise is corrected, I said. Corrected how? Truthfully. You want us humiliated. No. I want nobody praised for work they assigned to someone else. Mara picked up her purse from the chair, though she had never taken it off. Grant was right, she said. You would rather prove a point than help. The shelves will help. Not his business. That is the part you are still trying to save. She left without saying goodbye. That was it. I remained on the porch until the light went of the sky. I thought about calling her back and offering 6 shelves under Grant's logo, as if half a surrender would become a compromise. I even picked up my phone. Then I looked through the front window into the house where Mara had grown up. When June was alive, our daughter could enter without knocking because home was not something she had to earn. I had carried that welcome forward after June died. Somewhere along the way, Mara and Grant had begun treating every open door as access to whatever sat behind it. The hard part was not closing a workshop. The hard part was accepting that a boundary might change the meaning of home for my daughter. I put the phone down. Saturday passed quietly. I repaired the hinge that had been in my hand when Nina's message arrived. I swept the workshop and covered the table saw. I did not begin a prototype shelf. That last choice was harder than it sounds. I wanted to build one. Building was how I made a problem smaller. If I could see the shelf standing on my bench, I could settle the dimensions and stop thinking about Mara's face on the porch. But beginning the work before the correction would have given Grant exactly what he was counting on, my conscience moving faster than my boundary. On Sunday afternoon, Nina called. "Grant says the disagreement is settled," she said. "He says you are emotional because the flyer did not credit you, but you will lead the build." I closed my eyes. "Put this in your project notes," I said. "I will not build 40 desks. I will not open my workshop to this project. I may lead 12 study shelves through Samir's workshop after the original announcement is corrected. I have it. Read it back." She did. This was not evidence for a courtroom. There would be no courtroom. It was simply a clear sentence placed where Grant could not bend it by retelling it. Then Grant called me. "You made Nina treat this like a contract dispute," he said. "I made Nina ask the person expected to do the work. Do you know how this makes Mara look? Mara can decide how she looks by what she says next. I already bought the lumber." That stopped me. "How much?" "Enough to get started." "How much, Grant?" "It is being delivered Monday. Once it is in your shop, you will see this is manageable. Do not send it here. You are going to turn away materials for homeless kids? The families are moving into apartments. Do not use them to make your sentence uglier." He hung up. At 6:40 Monday morning, the side door of my garage rolled upward. I heard it from the kitchen. For years, Mara and Grant had known the keypad code. June and I gave it to them when Mara was pregnant, so Grant could borrow tools if I was not home. After June died, Mara sometimes let herself in to leave groceries or return a clamp. I had told Grant the workshop was closed to his project. I had not changed the code. That was my mistake. I had given them a code for family use and assumed family use explained itself. It did not. A key, a code, or an invitation cannot decide what the person holding it is allowed to do next. I should have changed the code after Friday's call. I had left it active because some part of me still believed Grant would understand a spoken no. By the time I reached the driveway, Grant had propped the side door with a paint can. A flatbed from the lumber yard idled at the curb. The driver stood beside 2 strapped bundles while Grant pointed toward my garage. "Close the door," I said. Grant turned. "Good, you're up." I said, "Close it." The driver looked from Grant to me. "Sir, is this the delivery address?" "It is my address," I said. "And you're right. I am refusing the delivery." Grant stepped between us. "It is paid for." "Then send it where you paid to send it." The driver did not need our family history. He needed an answer. I gave him one, and after a phone call to his dispatcher, he climbed back into the truck. Grant watched the bundles leave. "Do you have any idea what you just did?" "I stopped lumber I did not order from entering my shop." "You embarrassed me in front of a supplier." "You brought a supplier to a shop you were told you could not use." He kicked the paint can away from the door. It rolled across the concrete. I saw then how little lumber had been on the truck. 2 modest bundles. Enough, perhaps, for a staged photograph of volunteers holding boards. Not enough for 40 desks. "Where is the rest?" I asked. "What? You promised 40. Where is the rest of the lumber?" "It comes in phases." "What phase was your crew?" His jaw tightened. "People show up when there is something to show up for." There it was. Grant had planned to put lumber in my shop, gather a few people for a photograph, and create motion. After that, every unfinished desk would have become a child I was disappointing. He did not need a production plan. He needed me to become ashamed of stopping. I walked to the keypad and removed its cover. "What are you doing?" "Changing the code. Mara has things in there. She can ask for them. You are locking your daughter out because we tried to do something decent. I am locking you out because you entered after I told you no." He stood at the threshold, 1 foot inside and 1 on the driveway. "You think because it is your garage you get to make all the rules?" "Yes," I said. "That is one of the places where that is exactly how it works." He called Mara. She arrived 20 minutes later, wearing the blue blouse she used for client meetings. She saw the open keypad, the paint can on its side, and Grant standing in the doorway. "Where is the lumber?" she asked. "Your father sent it back." "How much was there?" I asked her. She looked at Grant. "Enough to start," he said. "Enough for how many desks?" "We were not building all 40 at once." "How many?" He did not answer. Mara looked down the street in the direction the truck had gone. I watched her do the arithmetic without numbers. A flyer. A photograph. 2 bundles. No named crew. My open garage. "You said the shop would make the campaign real," she said to him. It would have. "You said Dad would calm down once he started." He would have. The ease of his answer changed her face. Grant pointed at me. "He went around us and designed his own project. He is using this to make me look dishonest." "You promised my work before I knew the organization's name," I said. "You did not need my help. You needed my inability to stop helping." That is dramatic. It is accurate. Mara turned to me. "Did Nina agree to the shelves?" "She will consider 12 shelves through the community workshop after the flyer is corrected." "And Grant's company?" "Is not part of it." Grant laughed once. "There. That is what he wanted." Mara pressed her thumb against her fingernail. "Dad, if I correct it, the business loses the only good attention we have had in months." "I know." "If I do not, the 40 desks still do not happen. The shop stays closed. And the smaller project does not begin under a lie. So I have to choose you or my husband?" "No. You have to choose whether to tell the truth. What you do about your marriage is not mine to decide." Grant stepped farther into the garage. "We have a mortgage," he said. "We have employees. Mara, tell him this is bigger than his pride." I looked at my daughter. "I will not finance your marriage with my hands," I said. "I will not save a business by pretending it can produce work it cannot produce." "I love you." None of that changes my answer. Grant started to speak again, but Mara held up her hand. "The lumber," she said. "Were you going to order the rest after the pictures?" "I was going to build momentum." "With what money?" "We would have found sponsors." "After we announced the donation?" "That is how campaigns work." "You told me it was covered." "I told you I could cover it." "With Dad." Grant looked at her as if she had broken a private rule by saying the last part aloud. Mara's eyes filled, but her voice stayed level. "I gave you the picture," she said. "I let you say he would agree because I did not want to ask him and hear no. That part is mine." I did not rescue her from the sentence. She took out her phone. Grant looked at her and said more quietly, "If you do this, there may not be a company to go back to." Mara stared at him. For 15 years she had defended Grant most fiercely when he was afraid. I had watched her cover late bills, cancel trips, and tell relatives his next contract would settle everything. Her loyalty was not foolish. It had carried their marriage through lean seasons. That was why this choice cost her. "Then we deal with the company we actually have," she said. "Not the one on the flyer. Call Nina," she said to me. "You call her." Mara found the number in the email thread Grant had forwarded to her. She put the call on speaker because she chose to, not because I demanded an audience. Nina answered. Mara introduced herself and said, "I need to correct the desk announcement." My father never agreed to build the desks or open his workshop. I gave Grant the prototype photo, and Grant and I let you believe consent had been settled when it had not. Mercer Home Renewal cannot lead the project, we announced. Grant walked down the driveway before she finished. Nina was quiet for a moment. "Thank you for telling me directly," she said. "We will remove the announcement and post a correction. Eli, if you and Samir submit the smaller scope, we will review it separately." "That is fair," I said. The call ended. Mara stood beside the open garage. She did not ask if I forgave her. She did not ask if she could join the new project. She reached into her purse, removed the old spare garage remote, and set it on the workbench. "Grant's coat is the same as mine," she said. "Not anymore." She nodded. That was the consequence in my driveway. It was not loud. Grant lost the project he had advertised because he had no crew, no safe plan, and no consenting maker. Mara lost the kind of access that had allowed asking to become optional. I lost the comforting belief that my daughter would never confuse my love with permission. Harbor House removed the flyer that afternoon. 3 days later, it posted a short correction. The 40-desk initiative would not proceed. A separate project for 12 compact study shelves was being developed with Bellwether Community Workshop. Mercer Home Renewal was not named in the second announcement. There was no public accusation, no photograph of Grant, no sentence about our family. Nina corrected the work, not the people. Grant called it a humiliation. I thought it was an accurate description of what would and would not be built. Mara asked if she could come with me when I met Samir to approve the final shelf dimensions. "Not yet," I said. She swallowed. "All right." That answer mattered more to me than the apology she gave next. "I am sorry I made your kindness sound like inventory," she said. I believed she was sorry. I did not yet know whether she had changed. The first Saturday at the community workshop, Samir assigned volunteers to tables. Nina sorted hardware with 2 college students. I demonstrated how the shelf pieces fit using a sample Samir and I had prepared before anyone arrived. The work was slower than Grant's flyer had promised, and faster than one man in a garage could have managed. More important, everybody there knew what they had agreed to do. Mara appeared just after 9. She had called Nina the day before and asked whether the project needed another general volunteer. She had not called me. At first, that irritated me. Then I understood. She was not asking her father for special entry. She was asking the person responsible for the work. Samir gave her a box of labeled hardware and asked her to sort it into trays. Mara did not say she was good with tools. She did not take pictures. She did not tell anyone whose daughter she was. For 3 hours, she counted washers and matched packets to assembly tables. When we broke for lunch, she drank water near the loading door. I walked over. "Thank you for coming," I said. "Nina said they needed sorting." They did. She waited, perhaps hoping I would say more. I did not. Before she left, she asked, "Could I call you Thursday?" "After 7. "All right." Thursday at 7:12, my phone rang. Mara did not ask me to fix anything. She told me she had started meeting with a financial counselor by herself. Grant was staying with his brother for a while. She did not ask what I thought she should do about him. We talked for 11 minutes about ordinary things. Her tomato plants, a leak in my bird bath, whether the city would ever finish paving Larch Street. For the first few weeks, our calls felt almost too careful. We both waited half a second before making a request. Mara would say, "You can say no," before asking whether I wanted to meet for coffee. I would remind her that a request did not need an apology attached to it. Once she came to my front door with a bag of groceries, then stopped on the porch. "May I put these in the kitchen?" Before the flyer, the question would have sounded absurd. After the driveway, it sounded like work. "Yes," I said. She carried them in, put them on the counter, and did not wander toward the garage. We drank coffee standing in the kitchen. When she left, she took the empty bag with her. Nothing was repaired. Nothing was borrowed. No crisis appeared from the trunk of her car. That visit gave me more hope than her public correction had. Truth had ended the false project. Restraint was beginning to change our relationship. The next week she asked if she could stop by Sunday. I said yes. The week after that, she asked me to look at a loose drawer in her kitchen. I said no. "Can you tell me who to call?" she asked. I gave her the name of a repairman. "Okay," she said. No sigh. No pause designed to make me hear disappointment. She called him and paid him. A month later, she asked whether I would review an estimate for roof work. "That is not mine to decide," I told her. "Ask the contractor to explain what you do not understand." "I thought you might say that." "Are you angry?" "No. I am practicing asking without deciding what your answer should be." That was the first time I let myself laugh with her again. Mara and Grant eventually chose to live apart while they decided what came next. She told me only after the decision was made. I was grateful. The old version of our relationship would have made me a planner, referee, and emergency carpenter for a marriage I could not fix. She found part-time office work with a property management company. On her second week, she called to tell me she had spent an entire afternoon arranging repairs without once promising a contractor's time before confirming it. "That sounds like basic scheduling," I said. "It is," she answered. "I am late learning some basic things." There was no demand hidden in the admission. I let it stand. We finished the 12 shelves over 4 Saturdays. Harbor House arranged installation as apartments became ready. I went to 2 of them to make sure the dimensions worked. The families were not brought to a ceremony, and no child was asked to thank us for a camera. The shelves went against walls. Not every floor was level. We adjusted what needed adjusting and left. At the first apartment, a mother moved a laundry basket so we could reach the wall. At the second, the shelf fit beneath a window with less than an inch to spare. Those ordinary rooms settled something in me. The useful part of Grant's promise had survived. The inflated number, the company logo, and the staged photograph had not been necessary to serve anyone. Mara kept volunteering at the workshop twice a month. Sometimes I was there. Sometimes I was not. She learned which tasks Samir would give her and which ones belonged to trained staff. She never asked for the new code to my garage. Grant and I did not repair our relationship. He sent one email saying I had turned a manageable family disagreement into a business loss. I answered with 2 sentences. "You entered my shop after I withdrew permission. Do not do it again." He did not. Mara did not carry messages between us. 6 months after the flyer appeared, Nina asked if we would help install the 12th shelf in a common study room at one of the apartment buildings. It was a larger unit meant for children to use after school. Samir brought the shelf sections. Mara arrived 10 minutes early because she had called me the night before and asked what time I wanted her there. We worked with 2 volunteers under Samir's direction. At one point, a man holding a level nodded toward Mara and asked me, "Is she your assistant?" Before I could answer, Mara said, "I'm his daughter." Today he asked me to hold the level. There was no performance in her voice. She was simply telling the truth about the relationship and the task. I looked at her hands. One held the level. The other rested at her side, waiting. "A little higher on your end," I said. She raised it. When the work was finished, we packed the tools into Samir's van. Mara asked if I wanted coffee. I said yes. I did not give her the garage code back. She did not ask. The next Saturday, she called before coming over. She asked if I had time to show her how to repair a small wooden planter she had found at a yard sale. I looked at my calendar. 2 o'clock, I said. "Bring the planter. Leave the assumptions at home." She laughed softly. 2 o'clock, she said. And at 2, she rang the front doorbell.